everyone. We're here today for a special episode of Pelvis Party. I am Dr. Melissa Richards, Division Chair of Hospital and Surgical Services at Olmsted Medical Center, and I am without my co-host today because this is a special episode. I am joined today with some people who are near and dear to me. This is Maisa and Emily and Scott. I've had the honor of hanging out with these three over the last 6 months, and they have quite the story to share, and we're so happy to be able to share it with all of you. Today, Maisa, could you introduce yourself, where you're from, what brings you to this story?
Sure. I'm Maisa. I am a Rochester local now for the last 10 years. It's definitely been home where I've raised my own family. I'm a public health nurse here, and I am, now having a baby for Emily and Scott. We're now close friends, and yes, we're very excited to be here and be part of OMC family too. We're excited.
Awesome. And this is not your first pregnancy.
Not my first pregnancy. So I have 3 children of my own who range from 2 years to 7. And we, grew up here and just getting into the school system, and
wonderful.
And all my babies have been born at OMC. So
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Great deal. Emily, Scott, can you kind of tell us what brought us to gestational carriers, surrogacy, land?
Yeah, so a little background on our story. We got pregnant with our first child in 2019, and during my pregnancy, I was diagnosed with cancer, and we didn't really know what that would look like, post-delivery, but it ended up being chemo and radiation after she was born. And prior to going through all of that, we went through IVF. We froze our embryos just because the likelihood that I would be able to have more children after going through this treatment was not likely. There was also some discussions about potentially needing a gestational carrier, but the hope overall was that I still might be able to carry our own child. And then after some trials and tribulations, it really was just not in our favor. We tried one embryo transfer after about a year of using lots of hormones to try to bulk up my own uterine lining, and our transfer didn't take, which honestly was kind of the turning point for us. I think both of us were really able to kind of like close the door and say, okay, it's time to look for a gestational carrier and get this family growing just like we want to. And from there we kind of started doing some research and looking at options, and ultimately it led us here with Maisa, and we're really, really grateful for that. So
absolutely. What are kind of the different options for gestational carrier? Do you need to know the person?
That's a good question. You don't necessarily need to know the person. We were encouraged by our fertility doctor to start asking people in our circle, which for us was difficult because we're 30 years old and we have a lot of friends who some aren't even married yet, and a lot of them either don't have kids or they're just starting their own families. A common thing for being a gestational carrier is the recommendation is that you're done with your own family. So we really, our circle was not very big. And also it's not just something that everybody is willing and able to do. I think it takes a very special person, and it's a big thing to get into, and not everybody is cut out for that. It might sound kind of like this glamorous, fun, exciting thing, but when it comes...
Pretty glamorous. I make it glamorous.
Yes, she does. But when it comes down to it, there are a lot of pieces involved. There's a lot of little things too that can disqualify a person. So for us, we kind of asked around a little bit. We have very supportive family members who helped us also ask in their circle of friends, which is ultimately how we landed with Maisa, Scott's sister. Her husband went to high school with Maisa. And just kind of through the grapevine, there were conversations with some mutual connections, and that led us to Maisa.
Right? It's just kind of
Yeah.
full
and-
option, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't like find someone kind of that you personally knew, like an agency would have always been another option too.
Yep. So you can go through an agency as well. That is another option. Something we kind of looked into, and it's very expensive, which is not necessarily, an end all be all, but we were really hopeful to be able to avoid going the agency route. But we were also open to it if we needed to. We also fell into and found a couple of like newer programs, I guess you could call it, almost like a matching site for gestational carriers or surrogates and intended parents. One of them was like very new startup when I found it, and we kind of went back and forth a few times, and that was intriguing and interesting, and I even went as far as like starting a profile for us, but before all of that, we really got the ball rolling with Maisa, and didn't end up ultimately needing that, but also a very cool tool that was started by a CCRM fertility doctor. It's called Nodal, and it's just kind of an amazing thing that he started. So
it's really neat to watch all these connections happen. It's been such a privilege for myself and my colleagues. We've had a fair amount of gestational carriers in our practice, and some have been like known since birth, like literally siblings. We've had situations where we've become fast friends, and then also through just even different groups that have matched people up. It's awesome, and to be a part of it is just really special for us to be a part of all of this. What has kind of been like surprising for, I can think of some things getting to know the three of you. What has been surprising that has happened throughout this journey that the three of you didn't really expect to happen?
Well, I was going to say, like, just getting to know each other, it really did kind of feel like a dating process a little bit. Like, like, hey, how do you feel about this? And like, what's your thoughts on this? And so it was kind of fun at first just to like kind of feel that out. We obviously wanted to make sure it was going to be a good fit for both of us. And so we did take a lot of time just talking, kind of like you would, getting to know someone, dating someone. And then we actually, finally met and knew, that it was kind of just like instantly, it was that connection there. So, I mean, that wasn't necessarily surprising, but it was, kind of reassuring, just knowing that this was going to work out. But I don't know if there's been too many like surprising things along the way.
I would say you don't realize how prevalent surrogacy is until you start talking about it. It's like we took family photos, and there's another photographer there that somehow we got to talking that we had a surrogate and gestational carrier.
Yeah, I was carrying around like a board, and she saw that it said like do via GC, and she was like, I was a gestational carrier or something.
She was right then.
I think she was. Yeah, she was like 20 weeks. So
right then. So
yeah,
cool to see that it's normal. Like I think you can kind of feel alone, and you're doing some weird thing with all this, and people are like, I know a person who carried, and everyone knows someone, it seems. So that's been surprising to me.
I also think that there needs to be some like light shed on the fact that like this process is like, we are not millionaires. It is not something, we are not famous. So you don't have to be, I know, right? Despite what you might think, RP her hive. But you don't have to be famous or a celebrity in order to, get through this process. You don't have to have millions of dollars. There are ways to kind of work around and make this work, despite like your background financially. And, I think a lot of people think, like, oh, like it's so expensive. Like, how do you do this? Like, people can't really do this, but there are ways to make it accessible and make it work. And I think we just don't hear about it as much. You hear about it a lot. Like, I'll tell somebody like, oh yeah, like my husband and we're having a baby, but it's coming to us via a gestational carrier. And they're like, oh, you mean like a Khloe Kardashian or Kim Kardashian? And I'm like, yeah, something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of all around us, and we just don't necessarily see it every single day. So
And I think what's so special is how you all have made the decision to share your journey through social media. And I do want to give a shout out to both of you. Actually, have your own Instagram
We do.
that they collaborate on. So can you share your Instagram handle, both of you?
So my Instagram is Surl_adventure.
And we are at ourbee.herhive, which Scott came up with that. So thank you.
Yes, your bee, my hive.
Yes, our bee, her hive.
And part of that Instagram journey too is just to normalize that story, and then one just to document it for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Just to kind of remember all the things and week to week and
yeah, and I think for me too, I found kind of a community on social media, and that was a way that kind of like motivated me to keep going through this journey, because I saw other people doing it too, and it was like, okay, they did it, I can do it too. And didn't you kind of like happen upon somebody's story and you were like, wow, that's so cool, like I could do that?
Right, got me interested in kind of what that could mean for doing that.
So if like our story can, help even just one person or motivate one person, then that's incredible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it goes so along with actually Pelvis Party. We're all about normalizing.
Right?
And
Yes.
when you said
Talking about
normalizing,
things.
perfect, fantastic. We are going to make sure we're going to actually do two special episodes of Pelvis Party featuring our special guests. And once again, my name is Melissa Richards. I am the Division Chair of Hospital and Surgical Services. I co-host Pelvis Party with Britt Marshall and Becky Monpetit. Please feel free to see more episodes at Rochester Local /Pelvis Party.